Hey, welcome back to our program here on Coastal Daybreak on the talk station FM 107 and AM 1240. When you read our next guest's book called Reagan's Third Term, you'll see some very familiar names, maybe in some different places. Gib Kearney joins us now. Good morning, Gib. How are you?
Real well, Ben. Good morning.
Good to have you with us. Where are you today?
I'm in Washington State, actually.
Oh, so thanks for getting up early. We appreciate
Yeah, well,
that.
I'm an early riser anyway, so yeah.
All right. Coffee at the ready, and here we go. So let's talk about this book. I love alternate history discussions, like The Man in the High Tower, and I've been looking at that, and read 11/22/63 from Stephen King. So alternate history is a lot of fun to read. This one, you have some real meat to it that has some purpose, I think, for us to gather, or some meaning that we can gather out of it.
Well, absolutely, and it's very different in tone, unlike those other books. This is not some dystopian fantasy, but this is a very positive story. I think this is something, a story that we all wanted to hear, but were sort of denied by history. So it's different in that way. This is one where the guys in the white hats ride in and save the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when it's called Ronald Reagan's Third Term, and I have to say that my political evolution came largely after Ronald Reagan, and so I began to grow in my appreciation of what he meant for this country and for the cause of conservatism, and that really is a lot of the thrust of this book.
It is, yes, that's true. Because when he left office, there was so much in the way of unfinished business. So this book really provides a restart or a reset for the Reagan administration and allows him to move ahead on the things that were important to him, but that he wasn't able to accomplish during those first two terms.
Well, let's talk about one of the fun things in here is what you do with Rush Limbaugh.
Yes. Well, Rush Limbaugh actually becomes a press secretary.
I think that's great.
Yeah, what's funny is that as far as a timeline, I mean, with an alternate history, you take things that could have happened and blend them in. And at that point in history, in 1988, Rush was working for a talk station in Sacramento, California.
Right,
he
was.
Come out.
Yeah.
And then he was just about ready to go into national syndication when Reagan puts the tap on him to replace Fitzwater, who was not going to be part of the third term. Right.
Well, this is a great thought process. I mean, I love to think about how that would have been with the daily briefings, what that would have been like. That would have been its own show. It would have been a very highly rated show. So let's move a little bit deeper into this now, because you do feel that that President Reagan does not get the appreciation he deserves.
Well, exactly, yes, because I think there were so many things that he really wanted to do, and this gives him a chance because he does get a unified Congress behind him. So there are things that were important to him, welfare reform, line item veto, certainly moving ahead on some faith-based initiatives, constitutional ban on abortion, appointing a couple of more justices to the Supreme Court that were solidly pro-life. And, of course, this would be during the period in which Bush picked Souter and Thomas, and Reagan does not choose either of those guys. He's got his own picks.
Now, of course, for this to happen, you had to have the repeal of the 22nd Amendment.
Exactly.
And if you are, as you state, you're coming at the end of his second term, you're coming at a lot of deadlock. So something has to happen. I don't want to give away everything in here, but something has to happen, really, for this to cause the country to go in that direction.
A chain of events, yes, and it wouldn't really be too much of a spoiler to say that there is a coup in the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And there was actually a coup, the nature of an alternate history, yes, in 1991. Now, what I've done is just move the date back a couple of years, and the players are a little bit different, and certainly the outcome. So that is the event that causes Congress to reconsider the 22nd Amendment. Of course, that came about in the 1950s as a result of Truman.
Mm-hmm.
So, Congress does have the power to repeal it, and that's what happens in the book. So they move that out of the way, and Reagan steps up and decides to serve the country one more time.
And it's interesting because you start out with a scenario that we could imagine George H.W. Bush trying to rise to that office, and so it's Ted Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, originally it's going to be Dukakis, and then Dukakis bails out when he sees that Reagan is in the race. So And could he have done it? I think certainly. You know, Reagan was the type of person that I mean, if you look at the last time he ran in '84, the guy won 49 out of 50 states.
Exactly.
He was close to taking Minnesota. The only reason he lost Minnesota is that enough conservatives were willing to pinch their nose and vote for Mondale because he was the the home team, so to speak.
Right. A wonderful premise to this whole thing. Now, what do you want us to take out of this book, though?
Well, I think it's an invitation to dream about what could have been. It is for those of us that loved Reagan, and I mean, he remains one of the most popular American presidents. It's an opportunity to think about what would have happened if we had been able to get the man that we elected. You know, people supported his agenda, but unfortunately he dealt with an obstructionist Congress, and so much of what he believed in and wanted to do was just shut down. This is an opportunity for us to say, boy, this could have happened. So it really is a couple of books in one, is that it starts out with the threat from an expansionist Soviet Union and wraps up the Cold War. But it is also Reagan's legislative agenda, and then finally the story of picking a successor that would be true to the Reagan or conservative revolution.
You know, we look now at how we have not just an obstructionist Congress in the Democrat side of that, but also among the press. I mean, just really vicious attacks going after the current administration. Now, they also attacked Ronald Reagan. I mean, there was no stranger to a liberal attack from the press then.
Certainly.
It may not have taken the tone, quite the same tone as today, but he had to battle that too.
Oh, he certainly did. Yes, absolutely. And one area where he is really assisted is with talk radio. That provides an opportunity, because this, back in '88, I mean, this was pre-internet. It's hard to imagine that world, but it was pre-internet, and so it was very difficult for people to get the word out, through newspapers. And luckily, there was this developing network of talk radio stations, and so he was able to, tap into that in.
And you also had you had changes in the law too, in the Fairness Doctrine, for example. So you had lots of things that contributed to that. If those things, those changes, the rise of talk radio, et cetera, had happened in the beginning or of Reagan's term, maybe even in his second term, even though he won overwhelmingly, he might have accomplished more.
Yes, I think so. So yeah.
This
is a big part of the story, and of course, the connection with Limbaugh is that as governor, Reagan had been in Sacramento, which is right in the area where Rush was broadcasting, and Rush was one of those people that really stood with the president even during the depths of Iran-Contra. Never abandoned him. So.
Yeah, and yes, and Russia definitely has certainly been a stalwart of conservatism there, as we all know. So Gib Kearney is the author of the book Reagan's Third Term. Is this out and available everywhere now?
Yes, it is. Yeah, you can either visit the website and you can download a sample, you can get a bit more information, or you can just go right to Amazon. It's available both in a print and e-version.
And what is your website?
Oh, it's just reagansthirdterm.com. Real easy.
All right, and we have that posted up on our Facebook page and Twitter account as well, too. So you can go link there, and we'd be happy for you to pick up the book. And I think you're going to love reading this alternate history. It does sort of give us some blueprints, though, about what still can happen.
Certainly, yes. Yeah, absolutely. But it also keys in on events from what would have been the term of Bush 1. So we have things, say, for instance, the Exxon Valdez disaster, Saddam's invasion of Kuwait, Tiananmen Square, certainly culture wars, U.S. invasion of Panama. So all of those events happen, but sometimes, like I said, the cause and the outcome is different, and certainly how Reagan approaches them is different than how Bush did.
So what would Reagan do? That's like a subtitle.
Yeah.
So Reagan's Third Term, again, is out by Gib Kearney. Gib, thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Ben. Have a wonderful morning.
You too. This is Coastal Daybreak here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. Good to have you with us, and we'll have more to come in a moment.